You think you see the world and then react to it. Something happens, you respond. It feels so obviously true that questioning it seems insane. But that isn't how your brain works, not even close. Before the world has even finished arriving through your senses, your brain is already out ahead of it, guessing what's there and what's about to happen. And a lot of what you experience is that guess getting checked and corrected in real time. That sounds abstract, so let me prove it to you three quick ways right now. 1. Finish this line in your head. A dog is a man's best. You already said friend before I got anywhere near it. I didn't say it. You did. Your brain ran ahead and filled the gap, and you do that with every sentence anyone speaks to you, guessing the next word a beat before it lands. 2. A baseball leaves a pitcher's hand at 100 miles an hour and reaches the plate in about 4/10 of a second. By the time a batter picks up the pitch, decides, and swings, most of that flight is already gone. Reaction alone can't do it, so they read the arm, the grip, the release, the ball's first few feet, and start the swing before they actually know where it'll end up. They are predicting. 3. You're walking down a staircase and you think there's one more step than there actually is. Your foot swings out, expecting another stair, and drops straight onto the flat floor. Your stomach lurches, nothing went wrong, your prediction just missed by one step. In every one of those, your brain wasn't sitting back and waiting for all the information before reacting. It was running ahead with a guess and adjusting the second reality disagreed. You only noticed the guess at all when it missed. So why would your brain work this way? To get it, picture where your brain actually lives. It's sealed inside your skull. Total darkness, complete silence. Now for a quick fun fact, your eyes are the strange exception. The retina is actually an extension of your brain, sitting out where it can meet the light. But the parts doing most of the interpreting are sealed in a dark black box, and they have never touched the outside world directly. They only get the signals. Everything you know about the world reaches your brain as signals. Light becomes electrical activity, sound becomes electrical activity, pressure, temperature, pain, and even signals from inside your own body all arrive as patterns your brain has to make sense of. It never meets the world, it only gets the signals of it. And they're messy and incomplete, a flood of electrical blips with no labels on them. From that alone, your brain has to work out what's there. That is a really hard problem. So it does the thing that works fastest. It guesses. It uses the situation, your past experience, and the patterns it has learned to make a best guess about what's causing those signals, and what's likely to happen next. Then the incoming signals either back that guess up or push against it. When they fit, and they often do, everything feels obvious and immediate. When the mismatch is big enough, the brain has to update its guess and learn. So what you're experiencing right now isn't a raw, untouched copy of reality. It's reality run through a brain that showed up already expecting something. You're always experiencing the world through a guess your senses keep editing in real time. And there's a good reason why it runs this way. Reacting from scratch is too slow and metabolically expensive. Go back to that baseball. Wait for the real signal to arrive and get sorted out, and the ball is already in the catcher's glove. Predicting is the only way to keep up with a world that moves faster than your senses can report it. Once you see this, you start catching it everywhere. Start with plain seeing. It's why you can read straight past a typo. Your brain already predicted the word from the sentence, its shape, and the first few letters. Unless the mistake is big enough to break that guess, you see the word you expected instead of the one actually printed. Lisa Feldman Barrett has a great demo of this. She shows you a picture that looks like a random black and white blob. Total nonsense. Then she shows you the real photo it was made from, and once you've seen it, you look back at the blobs and your brain snaps them into a clear image. You cannot unsee it. Same blobs on the page, your brain just got a new guess, and it rebuilt the picture. It's why two people can watch the same argument, the same game, the same moment, and walk away with different versions of what happened. They're not lying, their expectations pulled their attention toward different details, and those details shaped what each of them saw and remembered. Perception isn't a camera faithfully recording what's in front of you. It's your brain building its best take from what it expected and what your senses are reporting now. Reality still gets the final say. Your expectations just help decide what it's choosing between. But the clearest place to watch this happen, and the most useful, is inside your own emotions. Picture a very specific set of sensations. Your heart is pounding, your chest is tight, your face is warm, your hands are restless. Hold those in your head for a second. Now, what emotion is that? You can't actually say, and that's the whole point. It depends completely on where you are. Those same sensations in the 10 seconds before a job interview might be anxiety. Those same sensations across the table from someone you're falling for are excitement, the good kind of butterflies, but the same butterflies nonetheless. And those same sensations in the middle of a heated argument are maybe anger. Now, what about after 3 coffees on an empty stomach? Well, those might be nothing at all, just caffeine. Pounding heart, tight chest, warm face, those same sensations can sit underneath completely different emotions. So the body clearly matters, but the sensations alone can't tell you which emotion you're having. Something else has to step in and make sense of them. One basic ingredient has a name in the research: affect. It's the general tone underneath everything, pleasant or unpleasant, wound up or calm. You can feel uncomfortable and activated well before you have a precise word for what it actually is. But unpleasant and activated isn't an explanation. It could be anxiety, or anger, or embarrassment, or coming down with something, or exhaustion, or too much coffee. The feeling is real, its cause is still blank. A pounding heart doesn't arrive with the word anxiety stamped on it, so your brain looks at the situation, searches your past, weighs what usually happens here, and makes its best guess about what those sensations mean. You're standing outside an interview. Your brain has learned that interviews can mean judgment, uncertainty, rejection. So it organizes those sensations into a guess. This is anxiety, and something here might go badly. And that guess isn't just a label slapped onto a finished feeling. It helps build the emotion itself, shaping what you notice, what you remember, how your body responds, and what you get ready to do. You don't feel the raw signal, you feel the whole thing your brain already assembled. And the guess goes to work. You start scanning for signs it's going badly. You remember the one you bombed. You tense up, your heart pounds harder, and those stronger sensations can feel like even more proof that the guess was right. So the guess can start helping to create the very thing it guessed. You expect anxiety, so you notice more threat, tense more, feel more anxious. The forecast starts changing the weather. This influential way of understanding emotion is called the theory of constructed emotion. It was developed by the psychologist and neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett. And if you want to go deeper, her book is How Emotions Are Made. The core idea is that an emotion comes from several things working together at once: signals from your body, the situation around you, your past experience, and the concepts your brain has learned. The emotion is the whole event they build together, not one body signal with a word pasted on afterward. And this is where trust your feelings needs a little nuance. Your emotional experience is real, but baked into it is an interpretation of what's happening and a guess about what comes next. The experience can be completely real, while that interpretation is completely wrong. That doesn't mean you can chant, "I'm not anxious, I'm excited," and just flip it like a switch. A different read can sometimes help, but the label is tied to your body, your memories, your expectations, and the situation. You can't always replace the whole experience with one sentence. So you can feel something completely and still be wrong about what it's predicting. "I feel afraid" can be totally true. Therefore, something bad is about to happen is a separate conclusion, and that conclusion can be wrong about the actual world in front of you. Your emotions are information, but they're not instructions, and they're not always eyewitnesses. Fear doesn't prove danger is here. It tells you your brain is expecting danger. Anger doesn't prove you were wronged, but it tells you your brain is reading the moment as unfair or threatening. So while that information might be important, it's not the final verdict. So, how do you use this when a feeling hits? You break the one big feeling into its parts, and that gives you two separate places to work instead of one. The first place is the body. That raw signal has ordinary physical causes, and people forget this constantly. Before you treat a bad feeling as a message about your life, check the boring stuff. Are you tired? Hungry? Lonely? Did you actually sleep? Did you have too much caffeine? Are you maybe getting sick? A tired, hungry, or overstimulated body makes unpleasant emotion easier to build. Then your brain grabs the nearest problem to explain the discomfort. 4 hours of sleep starts sounding like my whole life is falling apart. Sometimes part of the crisis is the story, and sometimes part of it is that your body genuinely needs sleep. The second place is the story. Once the body's accounted for, look at the prediction your brain attached to it. This meeting will go badly. They're judging me. Ask if that's the only guess that fits the signal, or just the one your past reached for first. This isn't positive thinking. You're not pretending everything is fine. You're taking one experience that arrived as a single solid fact and splitting it into its parts. The sensations, the general affect, the emotion label, the prediction. Now you can see what's actually there and which parts still need testing. And there's one more thing you can do to help. Get specific about what you feel. The gap between I feel bad and an accurate read of the experience can completely change what you do next. If everything unpleasant just becomes I feel bad, your brain has one blunt goal: make it stop. But I'm disappointed and a little embarrassed and honestly exhausted gives you a map. Each part points at a different, doable next step. Researchers call this emotional granularity, telling apart similar interstates instead of dumping them all in one bucket. People who do it more precisely tend to regulate themselves better and lean less on destructive coping. The effect is modest, not magic, but precision gives you more predictions. And even putting a feeling into words can take some of the charge out of it. Not analyzing for an hour, just naming it clearly. This is dread. This is loneliness. This is embarrassment. The feeling may stay, but it stops being one giant blurry emergency. If you still doubt how far your brain's guessing reaches, look at what it does to your actual body. And here's an example Lisa Feldman Barrett often uses. When you're desperately thirsty and you finally drink, the relief starts almost instantly, long before the water has actually restored the fluid balance in your blood. Signals from your mouth and gut tell your brain that help is arriving, so it starts easing the thirst before the job is physically done. Placebo effect show a related principle. Give someone a treatment they can expect to help, and their expectation, their past learning, and the whole setting can genuinely change symptoms like pain, even when the pill has no active drug in it. The relief isn't imaginary. The brain and body are responding to what they expect or predict is happening. It has limits, of course. Expectation won't set a broken bone or erase a tumor. But your brain's predictions aren't trapped inside your thoughts. They can change pain, stress, and other real processes running through your body. A brain built to predict is also a brain that can predict badly. And when it does, the prediction doesn't feel like a prediction. It feels like you're simply seeing the truth. If your past taught your brain that the world is dangerous, that people leave, that humiliation is always one step away, it keeps expecting those things. And that expectation aims your attention right at every detail that seems to confirm it, even when it isn't really happening. This is why anxiety can feel like proof. The dread arrives before the event, so it feels like a warning sent from the future. Sometimes it's pointing at a real risk, but often it's an old forecast built from your past, and the situation actually in front of you doesn't deserve the same prediction. It also explains why avoidance keeps so many fears alive. If you never go to the party, your brain never gets fresh information about how it might actually go, or whether you could handle it. The old prediction stays protected, because reality never gets a shot at challenging it. And this brings us to the part that can change your life. If your brain builds its predictions from experience, then your past isn't the only one thing shaping tomorrow's forecast. What you do next becomes part of the evidence too. Your brain builds its predictions from an enormous archive of past experience. But that archive isn't a finished book. Every new experience adds another page and gives your brain more to go on about what the world is like and what you can handle. What you do again and again becomes evidence. The conversations you get through, the promises you keep, the risks you take, the things you actually finish, all of it becomes part of what your brain reaches for tomorrow when it predicts what's true. Now, understanding can start to shift an old prediction, but some predictions are stubborn because your daily life keeps handing them the same evidence. You can tell yourself you're capable 1,000 times, and your brain will trust it far more once your actual life starts backing the claim up. That's why new experiences matter so much. It hands your brain evidence that's a lot harder to wave off than another argument running inside your head. When reality turns out different from what you predicted, that mismatch gives your brain a chance to learn. Scientists call this prediction error, but you have to actually let it count. Survive the party and then tell yourself it only went fine because you got lucky, and you've just protected the old prediction from new evidence. So, understanding and action aren't rivals. Understanding shows you what's worth testing, action gives it evidence. Insight points you at the thing to go prove, and the doing is what finally gives your brain something new to learn from. The person who's sure they're bad with people won't change that by just deciding to believe something new. But one ordinary conversation at a time starts giving their brain a different record to work from. The person who expects to fail starts stacking up small finished things. Each one is another piece of evidence against the old prediction. No single win rewrites the whole model, but enough of them make I fail at everything harder to keep believing. You don't just live in the world, you live in your brain's best working model of it, built from what your senses report, what you expected, and everything the past has taught you. That model is usually so good you never catch it being a model. The world just feels like the world. But predictions can be wrong, and because your brain keeps learning, they can also be updated. So when a feeling shows up feeling like a fact, you can stop and ask a sharper question. How much of this is what's happening now, and how much is my brain predicting from what happened before? And when you want a different forecast for how something will go, for how you are, or for what you can handle, thinking about it differently is a start. But it's new experience that makes the new prediction something your brain will actually trust. You're always training the system that helps build your reality. The things you do again and again today become part of the history your brain reads tomorrow when it decides what's likely and what you're capable of. So give your brain something better to go on. Do the thing today that becomes the evidence tomorrow. New experiences become new predictions, and new predictions slowly change the reality you walk out expecting to find.